Hi, this is Aaron Bhaskar from BKBB, an acronym for Bhaskar Ki Business Baatein. And while we brought you policy analysis, stories, and conversations in the past, we have opened this new chapter exactly 3 weeks ago. This is the fourth week of News Behind the News. And what we do is pick up two or three or four titles that we think we should discuss before our audience. Good morning, beginning of the week, and thank you for being with us. Do click the subscribe button and please tell your friends about it. We need our numbers to grow, and yes, please click the like button also. Today, as always, I'm joined by my joined by my co-anchors. I've got Katya with me and Isha. And today we'll discuss three titles which we think are very, very significant for India. The first title is about how luxury cars continue to zoom in sales, even though the economy is not doing so well. Very interesting. And then there's another story where we're going to talk about how India has imposed duties on five Chinese products. And the third one is about the global economy, how there's a global slowdown, how India is in sympathy with the global slowdown, while China has bucked the trend and has remained positive in its growth. Uh, I would like Katya to take up the story first. Katya could be happy.
So good morning, sir. As expected, no matter how normal car sales are doing, luxury car sales have been zooming. You just see the number of outlets of Lamborghini are growing up. In fact, Mercedes Maybach now sees India as a potential among the top five market, which shows that there is a huge potential for luxury car market in India. But what is very interesting about this particular trend is that a lot of Lamborghini buyers in India are under 40. So the younger generation, Gen Zs, we've spoken a lot about their consumption trend. They love to splurge on luxury items, whether it's clothes, bags, etc. They do not feel guilt over spending. For the HNIs, this is actually luxury cars, and it's very interesting. And also possibly because there's been a lot of startup HNIs and millionaires, and HNI population and in under 40s is also growing very, very fast, one of the fastest growing within the HNI population. So, and even Mercedes Maybach, Lamborghini's sales in 2024 has been 10% higher in 2024 than 23. Mercedes Maybach, 145% growth. It's crazy amount of growth to have been seen in this market. It is going to become very, very important. Not sure of top five though. But what do you think of this trend, sir? You think even with stock market slumping, which means company valuations will come down, startup valuations might come down. So they have bucked the trend until now. Do you think they'll continue to do it in the future too?
Well, it's interesting because A, it means that the rich community is getting richer. There are a lot more money to splurge around, which is why they're buying luxury cars. B, they're buying luxury cars even though the roads in India are terrible. Three, since the population that's buying these cars is a younger population, it means that they are trying to enjoy the father's wealth as early as possible because tomorrow is more uncertain. And four, because of the young population, it's not surprising that most of the accidents one comes across in the newspapers today involve luxury cars and very young drivers,
Yeah.
often under the influence of alcohol or drugs. We are creating a kind of a climate that is not good for India, not good for India's young. And we are allowing the splurge to even corrode our value systems. Well, it's a very important story. The car makers will be laughing their way to the bank because they're making money. But many parents will be crying. Thanks, Katya. And could we have the second story? And the second story is by Isha.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for joining in. Today I'm going to be bringing you a story from the Hindu titled India Imposes Anti Dumping Duty on Chinese Goods for up to 5 years. So, in an attempt to protect domestic players and stop cheap Chinese imports that are low quality from entering the country, India has imposed an anti dumping duty on five Chinese products. The products upon which anti dumping duties have been imposed, you can see on your screen as well, but they're as follows. The first is soft ferrite cores. Second is a certain thickness of vacuum insulated flasks. The third is a common household item, aluminium foil. The third is trichloroisocyanuric acid. And the fourth is polyvinyl chloride paste resin. So, in separate notifications, the Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs, Department of Revenue, said that the duty imposed shall be levied for a period of 5 years. These products have been entering the Indian market at way below the normal prices, which in turn hurts the domestic industries as the domestic players are not really able to compete with the prices of these products, and the low prices also begs us to question the quality of these products. So, all this, after an investigation by the anti dumping probe, these were the findings, and therefore, this motivated the Directorate of General and Trade Remedies to recommend the imposition of anti dumping laws. However, India is reliant on Chinese chemicals and APIs for the manufacturing of many products that it exports. So, it begs us to ask the question that will the anti-dumping laws and subsequently the higher prices that we'd have to pay for domestic products affect the supply chain of products that India is exporting as well. And another interesting thing to think about in relation to this story is that at this time when India-China trade relations are just starting to thaw, how will these dumping laws affect the situation? It's a really interesting story, lot to think about, but that's all from my side. Thank you for listening. I'd love to hear your comments on this, sir.
Well, it's a very interesting story that India has managed to increase tariffs on China even while trade negotiations with USA continue. So the US front, they stand still. On the Chinese front, despite the thawing relationships, India decides to impose tariffs on five items. Now, this is interesting, as you rightly pointed out. Many of Chinese imports that India makes from China are crucial for India, because of which it cannot put a tariff or a ban on it. These are especially the areas of APIs for farmers and for chemicals, specialty chemicals, both of which are used for re-export. So if you put a ban on them or you put a tariff on them, India's exports will slump. But this again goes through a scenario where the US wants to put in 25% duty on pharma also. So let's see what happens. India is caught between a rock and a hard place. And India has to decide whether it wants trade equally or whether it wants to kowtow to the US. Okay, that brings me to the third story. In a way, it carries on from what Isha has said, and that is about China, India, and the world. As this chart from Bloomberg shows you, world trade, the world economy is likely to slip. It's going to grow negatively. It's going to grow a little bit slower than it used to earlier. India too will not grow as well as it used to. The exception is China. China is likely to remain resurgent, which in a way raises the question, should India belong to the losing side or the winning side? India's policymakers surely must have thought about all this, but at these changing times, it would make sense to remain with a side that India needs and India can grow with and not lose with. And this takes us to the second slide from the same source, Bloomberg, and that is, look at two products where China's excelled beyond imagination. BYD has already overtaken most car manufacturers. This year is going to close with $100 billion income compared to $98 billion for Elon Musk's Tesla. It becomes effectively the largest player in the EV segment. China has shown that it can be formidable even in new tech exports. Remember last year, it had an export surplus of $1 trillion. Unbelievable, but true. And look at the second area, where its where from nowhere, Deepseek came along and proved that it was better than any other AI player. It's become so formidable that OpenAI, which thought it could rule the roost, has now started talking about requesting the government to ban a DeepSeek. When you start requesting to ban DeepSeek, it means the competition is hitting you, is hurting you. China is formidable, and India has to decide where it belongs. Remember one more thing. When BRICS was formed, India was one of its founding members. Now the key people who decide the future of BRICS are Russia, China, as before. The surprising inclusion is Iran. India seems to be getting displaced because India has been waffling, unable to make up its mind which side it belongs to. And that ends our transmission of today's news. Yes, there are questions coming up. And one question is, what should India's approach be towards BYD and DeepSeek? Answer simple. They're the best man win. India needs the best technology at the lowest cost. There is no sense playing loyalties here and picking up a more expensive product just because you like someone or just because someone is twisting your arm. India will have to take some hard choices. And the question is, if Chinese products come in, will the inflation go up? Chinese products are cheaper. Cheaper products don't create inflation. Expensive products create inflation. And do remember that already Chinese products are slapped with high duty rates. Look at solar panels, 60% duty. So China's already been hit with duties, and it only makes things expensive for India. India spends more money for getting things. If power equipment of solar panels had been cheaper, India would have had more solar panels, would have reduced fuel imports, which are bankrupting India. India has to look at a totality, and the best course is buying the cheapest products for the best and the best technologies. Okay. There's another question. Doesn't the purchase of luxury cars indicate the government's soft policies for the rich? Yes, it does. And that's been the accusation, especially the last 10 years, where the rich have become richer, the poor have become poorer, and the number of poor have kept on increasing because the middle class is being squeezed. Okay, we have time for one more question. Why have tariffs not been imposed on Chinese steel? Good question. In fact, steel already enjoys high tariffs because Indian steelmakers want to be protected with Chinese imports. The big question is whether the government will impose additional tariffs on steel because the US is putting a 25% tariff on both steel and automobiles and aluminium. So the entire tariff regime is undergoing a change. India should be wise enough not to talk about tariffs now till the dust settles. Negotiations with the US are still underway, and India does not want to take a decision yet. Okay, that ends our session for today. First of all, thank you very much for joining us on this 16th podcast, our 16th episode, our fourth week. And yes, do click the subscribe button. Tell your friends about it. And do click the like button. We will try to bring you more news, more insights, and try to make this channel more relevant for all of you. Thank you once again.